Good morning and happy Friday. I'm Vicki Wynn in for Joe and Savannah today. We begin our show in the Middle East, where tensions remain high after President Trump said the ceasefire with Iran was over. This morning, there is an uneasy calm in the region after both sides appeared to halt attacks overnight. This follows 2 consecutive days of U.S. strikes on Iran and Iranian strikes in retaliation on U.S. bases in the Gulf. Despite the apparent pause in fighting, deep mistrust on both sides is raising doubts about what comes next and the long-term path to peace. NBC News Washington correspondent Alice Barr joins us now with the very latest. Hey, Alice.
Hey, Vicki, good morning. We are tracking the latest out of the Middle East while also learning more about President Trump swapping planes midway through his flight back from the NATO summit in Turkey this week and the security precautions that may have been behind that. After 2 nights of strikes between the U.S. and Iran overnight last night, a tense standoff, with Iranian state media reporting explosions across the country. A U.S. official tells NBC News American forces did not launch new strikes, but have been shooting down incoming Iranian drones and missiles aimed at neighboring nations. The official said there are no reports of injuries or significant damage to U.S. bases in the region. Iranian Americans again fearing for the family they left behind.
Everybody's shocked because they thought they're going to stop the war, so everybody's scared again.
On Thursday, huge crowds gathered for the burial of the Iranian supreme leader killed in an airstrike at the start of the war launched by the U.S. and Israel. The burial ends a week of funeral processions that have included calls for retribution against President Trump, all as we're learning new details about security precautions involving Air Force One. 2 sources now say that while there was no specific threat, the Secret Service recommended President Trump fly in the old Air Force One when taking off from the NATO summit in Turkey Wednesday, instead of the new one that was gifted by Qatar and upgraded with what the White House called high-level security protocols. Sources familiar with the aircraft now tell NBC News it does not have all the defensive capabilities built into the older military-grade presidential plane. The president downplayed concerns.
I have a threat all the time. I'm number 1 on their list.
While he again asserted Iran wants to make a deal for long-term peace, but that he doesn't know if they'll stick to it. As for the critical Strait of Hormuz, sources and data show traffic plunged through that vital shipping route this week after the flare-up in fighting that started with Iran firing on commercial ships in an effort to exert control over the strait, all of it with a direct impact on oil and gas prices. Vicki?
Alice Barr, thank you so much. Let's continue this conversation with NBC News legal affairs reporter Gary Grumbach. So, Gary, let's talk about the political implications here of this renewed escalation with Iran. What does this mean for the president?
So we are 116 days from the midterm elections, and every single day that we get closer, it's going to matter more and more to the American people what is going on in the Middle East. And for politicians, Republicans around the country in some of these tight races are really going to have to defend the president's actions or risk getting alienated by him as they continue to run for these seats. Meanwhile, for voters, the economic consequences have been very clear. Tens of billions of dollars have already been spent on the war with Iran, and prices of nearly everything around the country have skyrocketed, while prices at the pump may be settling down a little bit. Things like air prices, especially airfare this summer, has continued to be sky high. Vicki?
You know, Alice talked about it a little bit in her piece, but what more are we learning this morning about why President Trump swapped planes on the way back from this NATO summit in Turkey? I mean, there was so much fanfare made about the new gifted Air Force One. What went into the thinking behind that security decision to take the old Air Force One?
Yeah, so we took the new Air Force One from the U.S. over to Ankara, Turkey. There was a big deal. Everyone was very excited about his first international trip. And then on the way back, he flew from Turkey to the U.K. in the old Air Force One, we're told at NBC News, because the new one lacked some defense capabilities that the old one had. So they took it out of Turkey, given how close Turkey physically is. It shares a land border with Iran. Took it out of Turkey over to Mildenhall, which is a military base in the U.K. President Trump downplaying it, saying purely he wanted to let members of the military see the new Air Force One and show it off a little bit. So he's certainly not viewing it as an issue, but members of the Secret Service, members of the military certainly are, Vicki.
Okay, Gary, take us now to West Palm Beach Airport in Florida, because it is now officially called President Donald J. Trump International Airport. What does the president stand to gain from this name change? And are we hearing any reaction this morning?
Yeah, out with PBI, in with DJT. That's what President Trump for decades has been putting his name on things. Think Trump Steak, Trump University, Trump Water, Trump Ice. Now we've got Donald J. Trump International Airport after Governor Ron DeSantis signed a law putting that into effect a couple months ago. It officially went into effect yesterday, and the first flight taking off from Donald J. Trump International Airport was a flight of what's dubbed Trump Force One, Trump's own personal plane filled with members of his family and close personal allies of the president. But yeah, he could stand to make a ton of money, because anything inside Donald J. Trump International Airport that has that name on it, think like tchotchkes at the airport kiosks that has that name, he and his family and his holding company could make money off of any of that. Vicki?
Gary, can you talk about the legalities of that? How is that possible? I thought there were rules against sitting presidents earning money, making profit while they're in office.
So it all has to do with the holding company, right? The trademark was trademarked under a company called DJT Enterprises, and because of that, he is able to make that kind of money. His family is able to make that kind of money. Will he be pocketing it himself? Potentially not, but certainly his family, Don Jr., Eric, and that holding company could absolutely be doing that.
All right, Gary Grumbach, appreciate it. Thank you. Now let's turn to the campaign trail, where the candidates are lining up to replace Graham Plattner as the Democratic nominee for Senate in Maine. Plattner says he will step down as the nominee after facing an on-the-record rape allegation made by an ex-girlfriend. He continues to deny any wrongdoing. Two sources familiar with his plans say that he will not withdraw until Monday, right ahead of a key deadline. For more on this, we want to bring in Alec Hernandez. Alec, it's good to see you. He's a reporter with Politico. He's been covering this story. So, Alec, tell us a little bit more about how this is going to play out with the Democrats, because this is such a big race. They were hoping to gain control in the Senate in this upcoming midterm.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Vicki. Thanks so much for having me. I think the first thing to point out here is just how crucial this Senate seat is for Democrats to win this year. They have to win a net 4 seats in order to take back control of the Senate. And they see Susan Collins as the most vulnerable Republican for them to unseat. She's, representing a state here in Maine that went heavily for Kamala Harris in 2024. And the Windsor Democrats backs here in the midterm. So all eyes were on Maine for Democrats to find the candidate that they thought would be able to beat Susan Collins. Of course, Graham Plattner has now withdrawn, and that process will restart all over again. But the stakes for Democrats here are just super high.
Alec, Plattner made this announcement that he's planning to withdraw on Wednesday, put out that video message. So why is he waiting until Monday, the last minute, to file the actual paperwork?
So he didn't necessarily say why he's waiting until the last minute, but state law here in Maine stipulates that any candidate seeking to withdraw would have to do so by the 13th, which is this upcoming Monday at 5 p.m. So, the video that he released announcing his intention to step aside earlier this week was just really the first part of the process, him stepping down in words. Now he actually has to submit paperwork with the Secretary of State's office to be officially removed from the ballot, which will then allow state Democrats here to be able to start the process of finding a replacement in order to, have enough time here to take on Susan Collins and win potentially here in November.
So, Alec, what about those replacements? Who could take his place in this race, and talk about the process? Walk us through what that looks like, because Democrats only have until July 27th to name the new nominee.
Yeah, well, let's start with the process, Vicki, because at the moment it's sort of piecemeal what it's going to entail. So what we know from Maine Democrats is that the larger picture is that it's going to be essentially a nominating convention. We don't know when that convention will be, but we do know, according to two sources familiar with the planning here, that the process or the convention is going to have 600 delegates, 500 of whom will be selected by state county committees, and they will meet to name this next replacement here. And Maine Democrats overnight last night saying that part of the process for these candidates that have put themselves forward is going to be a signature collecting process. They're going to have to collect 500 signatures from registered Maine voters here in order to qualify to take part in the convention. But The through line between all of the candidates here who are trying to replace Graham Plattner is that the majority of them, there are at least 8 of them now, and I say at least because it feels like that number keeps growing by the hour here, but the majority of them have already run for office here in Maine this year. You have 3 of the former candidates here for governor. That's Dr. Nirav Shah, who's the former top public health official here in Maine. You have Secretary of State Shenna Bellows. And then you have other folks who, Troy Jackson, who's a former state Senate president here in Maine, who had the backing of Bernie Sanders like Graham Plattner did during the governor's race. So a big field of contenders and a lot still up in the air, but we'll see where it goes, Vicki.
All right, a lot of people to sift through. Alec Hernandez, thank you very much. It is the final day of a key hearing to determine if prosecutors have enough evidence to try Tyler Robinson for the murder of political activist Charlie Kirk. In court yesterday, prosecutors shared never-before-seen photos of the weapon that was allegedly used to kill Kirk. They also released clips from a recorded interview in April with Robinson's former roommate and romantic partner, who said that Robinson regretted the shooting. NBC News correspondent Camila Bernal has the very latest from the courtroom.
For the first time, we're hearing from the former roommate of Tyler Robinson, the man accused of killing Charlie Kirk.
I started crying a little bit and said he wishes he hadn't done it.
This moment from a previously recorded interview is part of what prosecutors consider a confession Robinson made to his then roommate and romantic partner, Lance Twiggs. The video shown at a hearing in Utah, along with messages they exchanged the day of the September 2025 shooting.
So this would have been from Tyler. It says, drop what you're doing, look under your keyboard.
Prosecutors say under that keyboard was a handwritten note that said, I had the opportunity to take out Charlie Kirk, and I'm going to take it. Kirk's wife, Erica, who has been in court all week, in tears as that note was read. Twiggs describing their interaction the day after the shooting like this.
I just asked him in person if what he said was true the night before, and he said it was.
In court, prosecutors also showing never-before-seen photos of the rifle believed to have been used by Robinson and engraved bullets.
Will you read the markings here?
Hey, fascist.
Camila Bernal, NBC News.
Let's bring in NBC News legal analyst Danny Savalos to break down these latest developments. Danny, good morning to you. So prosecutors did not share the full interview with Twiggs. Parts of it were redacted. What do you think of all of the evidence that was revealed yesterday?
Absolutely devastating. You heard just a fraction of it. You've got shell casings. You've got admissions apparently made to the roommate. Those will likely be admissible and non-hearsay. Absolutely devastating. And step back a little because some context helps. Preliminary hearings, and I've done probably thousands of them. Preliminary hearings are just probable cause hearings. In some states, they last as long as it takes for the DA or the prosecutor to literally read a few paragraphs from a police report. Hearsay is allowed. The rules of evidence are relaxed. So it shows that this is an unusual case that is of such import. And by the way, Utah has very relaxed rules at a probable cause hearing. This is a hearing that ordinarily would take maybe half an hour, maybe an hour. But the prosecution here has laid out a lot of evidence, more than enough, in my view, to get them over probable cause. And what they have revealed, and they wanted to reveal more, has been simply devastating for the defense.
You know, Danny, the defense really did try to stop the interview with Twiggs from being released publicly. They said that the prosecution would label it a confession and that it could really hurt his right to a fair trial, right? Potentially tainting the jury pool. Everybody who has seen what has been revealed so far, I mean, clearly the judge didn't think that was a valid argument. Why?
The court has to engage in a balancing test. On the one hand, we have a very strong presumption that courts in the United States are open to the public. And while what's in the prosecutor's file is not is private until they choose to reveal it, once revealed in court, generally speaking, the default rule is everybody gets to see it. But the defense does have an argument, a constitutional argument, that a defendant has a right to a fair trial and that too much pretrial publicity can taint that right to a fair trial. The case is actually Shepard. It was the subject of a movie that's now an old movie, The Fugitive, but it's sort of the same idea. It's very, very rare, but enough negative pretrial publicity can threaten the right to a fair trial. But no matter what, this was an uphill fight for the defense. This was going to come out, most of it. They got some of it redacted, so a minor victory.
All right, Danny. And Robinson still has not entered a plea in this case. You are a defense attorney. What do you think the strategy ought to be here, especially given all of this evidence?
Yeah, the fact that he hasn't entered a plea is really part of procedure. The preliminary hearing is a probable cause hearing. Only if he's held over for trial will Robinson then actually enter a plea. And it's easy to step back and say, oh my gosh, this case has been going on for months and months and months. He hasn't even entered a plea yet. Well, unfortunately, this is what people find, that the wheels of justice are not the wheels of a Ferrari. They're the wheels of a covered wagon, and they move very, very slowly as they grind on. So once he is held over, that is procedurally, and this is pretty standard across the country. Once there is probable cause and the case is held over for trial, that is when the defendant enters the plea.
Okay, and quickly before you go, Danny, the prosecution does want to seek the death penalty for Robinson. When might we see a decision on that and a potential trial date?
The prosecution has already made their decision. It's really about a procedural step, the preliminary hearing, the probable cause hearing. Once this case moves forward, the prosecution will be seeking the death penalty, which Utah has the death penalty. Many states do, many states do not. And so they have made their decision. They're planning to move forward, and that may be leverage that they will get the defendant possibly to consider a plea, maybe for life without the possibility of parole, instead of capital punishment.
All right, Danny Savalas, as always, we appreciate your legal insight. Thank you. All right, if you are planning to take a trip this weekend, you might want to pack your patience. Strong summer storms, full flights causing major delays at airports across the country. For the very latest, we're going to check in with NBC News correspondent Ryan Chandler, who is covering the story for us this morning from Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport in Texas. Good morning, Ryan. So more than 1,000 flights are canceled as of this morning, 9,000 more delayed yesterday. What's causing the backups? How are things looking today?
Yeah, Vicki, brutal day at the airports all across the country. It is not yet 6:30 here in DFW, and you already see the lines are starting to stack up. Talking with the experts, there's a couple things going on here, because I would have thought we would have gotten through that big travel rush from the 4th of July last weekend, but some remnants of that are still trickling into this weekend. They say that with all of the delays and cancellations that happened Monday going in to this work week after the 4th of July, a lot of those people just couldn't get rebooked, some for days. So there's some people who maybe extended their holiday week involuntarily and are finally getting home now after last weekend's trip. There's also just cost pressures that are leading more people to travel on off-peak times. Maybe prices were too expensive over the 4th, so they said, we'll take a weekend trip the weekend after. And seems like everybody had that idea because so many people are at the airport, Vicki.
Yeah, I think it caught a lot of people off guard that the FAA said that, July 9th was suddenly going to be one of the busiest days, if not the busiest day of this summer. We also know it's a tough time to travel in the month of July because of the delays, the storms. What are some ways that people can try to have a smoother travel experience despite all the things that are out of their control, Ryan?
Few tips and tricks. This one I just learned. I didn't know you can make it through a security line nowadays without ever touching your wallet. It's called TSA PreCheck Touchless ID, and you can sign up with a participating airline, get all that information through Google Wallet on your phone, make it much more seamless going through security. You can pair that with companies like Clear. That golden combination I use every time, a PreCheck plus Clear, you sail past everybody. You feel like an expert traveler. If you're going to get up early with us anyway, just take the earliest flight of the day. You really lower the risk for storms that crop up in the afternoon. Your plane's already at the gate from where it was coming in the night before. Makes it that much more likely you're going to get where you're going on time, Vicki.
Yeah, all really good advice. It's always that first flight of the day makes a big difference because the plane usually comes in overnight. It's already there. Right, what about people who are trying to fly out or hit the road this weekend? What parts of the country could maybe be some of the biggest trouble spots?
I wish I could point you to like one location, Vicki, but we're seeing different kinds of extreme weather all across the country from coast to coast. The Northeast got battered by some severe thunderstorms across New Jersey and Washington, D.C. yesterday, as you know. The heat is really the main story up in Montana and the Dakotas. They could see record-breaking temperatures, and that's an area that's really not used to it. So we're going to have to see how that impacts things all across the board, Vicki.
All right, Ryan, thank you so much. Have a good Friday. Now let's go ahead and get a check on your morning news now weather with NBC meteorologist Angie Lashman. Hey, Angie, good morning.
Hey guys, happy Friday. We've got a couple of trouble spots when it comes to the weather as we get through today and into the weekend. Some of those coming from those strong to severe storms that are likely going to pop up across parts of the Midwest and the Northeast. If you're flying out of Kansas City, St. Louis, Cincinnati today, you'll likely see some delays. And those are also going to be possible at the airports stretching from New York City all the way down to Charlotte, including Atlanta and New Orleans as well as we gear up for some scattered thunderstorms. Right now, already seeing a pretty active morning. Most of that stretch across parts of Missouri into Kentucky. You can see some of these flash flood warnings and watches are up right now. 19 million people included in that flood watch as more of that heavy rain is on the table through the day today. We'll specifically watch for the greatest chance for flash flooding anywhere from Kansas City to Pittsburgh and down through Knoxville, including Nashville and Cincinnati today. Rainfall rates, hourly rainfall rates, I should say, anywhere from an inch to up to 3 inches on already saturated ground. So that is why we are concerned for the flooding. Otherwise, temperatures above average, and we're talking about for most of the country at this point. We've got the 90s on tap yet again across Memphis today, a heat index of 107. 107 for what it'll feel like in New Orleans, Charleston at 108 for your heat index. Richmond, you top out at 93 degrees, but you feel like 97. And that heat expands even as we get into tomorrow. Most of parts of the Northeast running above normal, stretching down to the Southeast. Savannah, your actual temperature is 100 degrees, but you'll feel like 106. And we finish out the weekend with those warm conditions continuing across the West as well. Here's what it looks like today. We'll see the potential for the 90s plus across much of this region, the Rockies, the Southwest included, and we could be likely breaking some of these all-time records across this region. So it's 98 degrees in Jackson on Sunday, 97 on Monday, 100 plus across parts of Colorado. Rapid City, you top out at 105 on Sunday and Monday for your actual temperature. Otherwise, nice conditions across parts of the interior Northeast and New England as we get through your Saturday. Dry conditions, too, for the Great Lakes in the Midwest. We'll see record highs, as I mentioned, across most of the West, but those severe storms could slow you down for parts of the Southeast, not only Saturday, but Sunday as well. We'll see that heat wave continuing well into the end of our weekend across the West. Back to you.
All right, Angie, thank you so much. And much more to come on this hour of Morning News Now, including how drones could actually shape the future of public safety, flying to emergency scenes within seconds of a call. First, though, after the break, dozens reportedly killed in China after a shoe factory there goes up in flames. We'll have the terrifying scenes as the nation grapples with another workplace tragedy. That is next.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.